It's nefarious, man. Like, the brain works in fucked up ways.
The mind is one of the most deceiving, manipulative pieces of equipment, flesh, human bodies on earth. I never have trusted my brain.
All of that weight lives in your head, and you are the decision maker.
Psychology of entrepreneurship.
Hi, it's Ronsley. If this is your first volume, welcome. This is a weekly series where I go inside the mind of an entrepreneur, artist, athlete, academic to decipher what is the psychology of our decisions. Okay, so maybe it isn't Ronsley. My name is Kaylee, and I'm one of the producers behind the Psychology of Entrepreneurship. And today I'm going to be holding your hand through the show while we revisit volume 16 with superfood hunter Darin Olien. It's been almost 10 months since that volume aired, and not only have we released a bunch of volumes that tie in with the main focus of this conversation, but we've been working closely with Darin this past year on his own podcast, The Darin Olien Show. So we felt it was appropriate to bring this conversation back into the light. We've done this before, but for any new listeners, I'm going to play this volume and bring in some insightful snippets from our other conversations with guests to further support Darin's ideas or stories. There are a lot of common thought patterns between the incredible entrepreneurs we've interviewed over the past years. So this is a really great way to see how everything ties together. After losing his home in the California wildfires, Darin decided to shift his mindset to build something beautiful from what he had. This is a great volume for anyone going through a rough patch in life who might be looking for some guidance or maybe just someone to relate to. But I'll stop talking now and let Ronsley start from the beginning.
Hi, it's Ronsley. If this is your first volume, welcome. This is a weekly series where I go inside the mind of an entrepreneur, artist, athlete, academic to decipher what is the psychology of our decisions. How's it going? So, I get asked this a lot. What is the ROI of a podcast, Ronsley? I say I became godfather because of a podcast, but I suppose my meeting with my next guest happened like this.
I remember bits and pieces of it. I obviously remember meeting you and liking you, and it's so funny because I just literally just thought you were a chef because we didn't get into you. You asked me to be on this podcast and, get into the superfood thing and all of that stuff. So I didn't know all of the depth of you. I just knew that I had a good connection, good conversation, and it's fun to be on this other side.
I interviewed Darin on the Bon Appetit podcast 4 years ago. We kept in touch, and he's now a client of Amplify, and we are helping him get his voice out into the planet. I think we might need some extra context here about Darin, just a little bit, because I'll highlight his amazingness at the end. But here is an insight to a couple of highlights from Darin's life.
I feel like I am just getting going on some epic aspects of my life that are just now coming into fruition. So I feel like even though, there's some easy aspects or benchmarks along the way that I have been a part of, creating a superfood formula for Beachbody 10 years ago, and it's on its own has sold $3.5 billion. That's crazy. No one would have ever been able to understand that. I can't even still computate that in my head. So that's, and then you realize the millions of people that have been able to consume something that ultimately is a passion of mine that really distills down to this. I want people to kick ass in their life. I want them to live a super life. I want them to be happy. I want them to not drag around this chemistry set of a body and exist. I want them to have what they want in life and to express it how they want to. Now, if we're sick and old and beaten up and sore from life, you can't do that very well. You can't live your dreams if you're limited in your infinity and your ability to dream even. Just the ability to dream is limited by your limitations within your physicality and your mentality. And therein lies all of the unpacking that is, right? The how you're living your life, what you're putting in your mouth, what do you care about, what's your view on yourself, and what's your view on the world, what is that all about for you, and then how are you taking responsibility for yourself and your life?
To say that this human does amazing stuff is kind of an understatement. Today, we are going into the mind of a deeply connected entrepreneur who has had the most amazing and horrific things happen. This volume will explore the dichotomy we go through as entrepreneurs, artists, and creatives, which fluctuate between grief and joy. So let's start at the beginning with more context as to how Darin shows up when he gets to a new place. Because since 2005, he has successfully sourced more than 300 foods and ingredients from around the world, working directly with people from Peru, Bhutan, the Amazon region, the Himalayas, the South Pacific, and many other countries in Latin America, Asia, and Africa.
When I show up to a place, I'm meeting the people, I'm getting to know them, and then in some cases, just meeting, communicating. When I get to be in those situations, you're then going, okay, how authentically have they been using this herb? I can read something online, but really, let's talk directly to these experts because you cannot find that information. And so learning from that perspective and then backing into how they're growing it, why they're growing it a certain way before it's radically commercialized, because that's really what you're going to then end up being. And especially when you know you're selling, you now have a benchmark of what you need, the standards that you need it in, the active compounds that you need to test it in, and then all of the certifications and auditing that needs to be up to speed. But at the same time, indigenously, I'm kind of the front person in that situation most often because we have the audit teams that go around the world, but they're just in a facility, under, fake lights, checking to make sure rats aren't running around and very basic, but you come to realize that many facilities fail around the world. They fail. We fail over 90% of them before we can get them up to speed. So unfortunately, the sad part of the industry is you can sell that stuff and it's selling all over the place. And if you're not spending your time, your people, your money, making sure that, and you have a superfood company or you have a herb company or you have a tea company or you have some sort of mixture company or a food company that's not coming from your neighborhood, then you got to put your ass on a plane, on a train, in some cases I've been on a water buffalo. You need to show up. And that's the major difference. I would never say I'm the smartest person in the room, but I'm a ass kicker.
This talk of quality control and making sure your product is as healthy as it's marketed to be reminds me of volume 36, where Michael Fox gave us an insight on how his company Fable uses shiitake mushrooms to replicate a healthier version of processed meats, to push for their mission to end animal agriculture.
I sometimes think about it on a scale of like banana to Oreo, an Oreo being a highly processed food, a banana being a fresh food. So yeah, everything can kind of sit on a processing scale like that. So we aim with Fable to sit much closer to banana than an Oreo. So our product is 62% shiitake mushroom. So shiitake mushroom is our base ingredient. And we do very little processing on that shiitake mushroom. We keep as many of the nutrients and minerals and everything in the shiitake mushroom. And shiitake mushrooms are incredibly healthy food that we should be eating more of. They're really high in fiber. They're great sources of vitamin D and iron as well. even vitamin B12 and some of the other harder to get B vitamins. And so what we've done is, in as minimally a processed way as possible, we've basically taken the shiitake mushroom and turned it into something that tastes like pulled pork or braised beef or beef brisket. So you get that delicious taste and texture while still getting a really minimally processed, all natural, healthy product.
The Awa are one of only 2 nomadic hunter-gathering tribes left in the Amazon. According to Survival International, they're now the world's most threatened tribe. Their jungle home is being destroyed by illegal settlements and logging. Undercover investigators have filmed the loggers taking huge tree trunks out of the Awa's territory, but are powerless to stop them. The loggers are often armed, and activists say the Brazilian government has been too slow to tackle the problem. The actor Colin Firth has added his voice to Survival's new campaign, calling on Brazil's leaders for urgent action.
That report was about logging companies exploiting Brazil's rainforest that have been accused by human rights organizations of using gunmen to wipe out the Awa. The Awa is a tribe of just 355 people. What the fuck is wrong with us?
In 2020, the Indonesian government is planning to convert approximately 18 million hectares of rainforest into palm oil plantations.
One of the easiest things to do is show up to a place without any context of how everything works, with solutions to problems that don't exist for the people of the place we show up to. That place can be a village, a company, a team, a family. We are quick with judgment and smart solutions.
In Volume 26, Noom Dara gave us a rundown of how he came to realize how his role in his company doesn't just affect him, but has a domino effect on the well-being of those employed by him and their loved ones. A common point made in relation to creating a successful business is that you'll get better results when your staff feels valued and safe. Noom proved to be a shining example of this when he said,
"That's what I feel my job is as well, not to only for the shareholders, but now I'm looking at all the stakeholders. So the stakeholders are not only the employees, but the families of the employees. If I have known or thought about it in the beginning, I would have been much more cautious, because every step that I take forward means that I'm more responsible. I feel more responsible for those who trust me. And those who work for me, I believe they come to work for me because they have a certain trust in me or in what I stand for or what we're building. And for me to only look at one side, which is just to push forward all the time without looking at the back end of the business, I feel that I did not do them proper justice, that I have been a little bit more irresponsible, or a lot more irresponsible than I have to be, than I need to be.
One of the most common debates is fair wages in developing countries. Darin?
I show up. I love to show up, and I love to learn in that way. So understanding culture is number one, making sure that those people are happy. They're happy with the scenario of the business relationship, that their wages are not extraordinary, but they're just above average. And that's a very important thing. If they get paid too much, then it's equivalent as someone winning the lottery that is making $20,000 a year. And usually what happens within a year or two, these people are in worse conditions than they were before they won a lottery. So you have to be delicate, which is why you need to understand the culture. You have to understand through multiple conversations from multiple directions to understand what is fair for them. What are they getting paid now? What makes them happy or happier?
That kind of reminds me of when Tucker Max said this in Volume 4.
Like, I forget who said this. One of the quickest ways to ruin someone is to give them too much success too early. And it's true, man. I've seen all kinds of people I know hungry, really want to either make a difference or make money or do a company or do something cool, whatever it is. They're hungry, right? They're poor, broke, and hungry. And that kind of drives them. And then they get some success or they get an exit and then they're done.
Do you know what makes you happy? Are you doing what makes you happy? Or are you waiting for some scenarios to change in your favor for you to do the things that makes you happy? Speaking about what makes us happy, do you know about Bhutan?
So Bhutan is the neighbor of northern India, the neighbor of southern China. It's squashed in between these empires. And it's this kind of the last Shangri-La, as they call it, governing their country by gross national happiness, literally, pragmatically. So the best of their ability, they weigh every decision, every major decision on the effect that it has on the pillars that they've set up. And some of those pillars are things like, how will this affect our economy? How will this affect our society? How will this affect our communities? How will this affect our environment? Every decision. When you realize that it's not just this hot pie in the sky idea, that a culture that keep in mind, Bhutan is literally surrounded by 23 of the highest virgin mountains that have never been summited or populated. 23 of the highest virgin mountains in the world. So you might as well be on an island in the middle of the Pacific. You can't just leave. Like, especially for them. There's one airport. They own their airline. That's the only one flying in. So they're very protective of what they do and how they do it. And it's not to say that they're the happiest people in the world, but damn, they're trying, right? So they're taking the conscious choice to listen. If we do these things, it's going to affect our world. From that perspective, that by far was culturally the most kind of beautiful, vulnerable, and inspiring way to govern that I've seen.
Choosing to take your situation and make the best of what you have in that moment is something that doesn't always come easy. But by making small adjustments to make everyday life a little bit more comfortable, you can start to create something that is beautiful for you. In Volume 5, David Meltzer explained why his outlook on success shifted from reaching milestones to achieving happiness in his day-to-day life.
You don't want to attach your emotions to the end. I attach my emotions to the inspiration to get me the farthest that I can go towards infinity. I used to attach everything to an end, to happiness. When I'm rich, I'll be happy. When first $1 million, when I buy my Ferrari, I'll be happy. When I buy my motorhome, I'll be happy. When I buy my mom's house, I'll be happy. When I get married, I'll be happy. When I have my children, when they graduate high school, I'll be... No, not anymore. It's, to me, I am happy on the pursuit of my potential. In fact, that my definition of happiness is the enjoyment of the consistent, everyday, persistent, without quit pursuit of my potential. That is happiness. And that's what I want to be from the time I open my eyes till the time I close my eyes.
Come on. It's a daunting climb to one of the holiest sites in Bhutan. Tiger's Nest Monastery seems to defy gravity. Every Bhutanese is expected to complete the pilgrimage to ensure peace and happiness. When it became a democracy in 2008, Bhutan put happiness at the centre of all political policy, inspiring the UN to pass a resolution urging other nations to follow Bhutan's example. But how do you measure it?
For many Bhutanese, happiness is more intuitive than it is quantifiable, but ever since it became part of state policy, it's been described roughly as good governance, the balance between nature and economic growth, and also between pleasure and work.
In the capital, Thimphu, is the world's only Secretariat of Happiness, and a chief official who takes his job very seriously.
The GNH index is found based on the 9 domains and close to 33 indicators. Things like health, education, living standard, environment, good governance. One is psychological well-being. The other one is community vitality, time use, and cultural diversity.
That was the start of a report done by Al Jazeera, a news channel, on Bhutan and how it goes about measuring its happiness index. I mean, there's no shortage of people out there trying their hardest to sell us stuff to make us happy. We buy things we don't need to impress people we don't like to live a life that doesn't make us happy. Because the pursuit of all the happiness in the world is quite useless when a natural disaster hits, like the Californian fires of 2018.
I was on a project, a TV film project, finishing up that. I was in the Amazon. We were just leaving this Amazonian city, had a hotel, had internet, but then I heard a couple texts. People said there's a fire in Malibu. I'm like, oh shit. I got a hold of my neighbor. I said, yep, there's a fire. We haven't evacuated yet. I said, great. Okay. Well, I didn't say great, but I said, okay, so could you, before you leave, if you have to evacuate, can you grab some stuff out of my place? Yes. And then I'm gone. I'm on the Amazon. No cell reception, nothing. And we get back and boom, I turn on my phone when we have reception and I got hundreds of text messages. And the ones obviously that stuck out was from my neighbor, and I get this kind of running message of we had to leave, we couldn't get anything, the fire came, here's the pictures of your house, I'm sorry, it's all gone. And I was like, I'm just in shock. There's no immediate place I could go for, to deal with that. It was just this overwhelm beyond moment that you can even compute. So I'm out, I'm in this and we have a few days of filming left. I'm just in shock. I can't believe it. I didn't know how to talk about it. I don't and the production team was like, hey, you don't have to do this. We can finish up without you if you want to, or if you want to talk about it on camera. So I started talking about it, and within days, because we were finishing up, I was back on a plane. And the things that were the most shocking is I was on the road for on and off for 3.5 months in 9 countries. And I was exhausted on many levels. Now I'm so exhausted, I don't even have a pillow to go back to. And I'm sitting on the plane going, fuck, I don't have any of that. I don't have nothing. I don't even know where I'm going. I have no place to go to. I can't even get to my property. All of this is hitting me on the plane. Where the fuck am I going? So I get back, and a friend of mine I got a hold of, and I got some random place in Venice. And then eventually, about a week and a half later, they opened up that canyon, and I was able to get back, and I came in my gate just completely.
When we come back, how does one process these kind of emotions when we lose everything?
The main objective of this audio project is to bring together entrepreneurs and creatives who share similar values so that they can find the courage to put out their authentic voice for the right people to hear, which allows for them to make their impact on the world. Every great movement started with a memorable speech. For access to full-length interviews, go to psychologyofentrepreneurship.com and click the button.
Before the break, indigenous tribes knew measures of success and natural disasters. Now, what happens when you are out of the country and you hear this from your neighbors?
We had to leave. We couldn't get anything. The fire came. Here's the pictures of your house. I'm sorry. It's all gone.
What do you do? Can you imagine what you do in that scenario? Darin, that must have been painful. When you got back to see your property for the first time after the fire, when you got back from the Amazon, what was that scenario like?
The scenario is that I live on 50 acres surrounded by a national park. It's gorgeous. And I showed up and there wasn't a sound. There wasn't a blade of grass. There was nothing of color in the entire, as far as I could see. There wasn't a bug. There wasn't a bird. It was fucking smoke and black and white soot. Everything. Seeing it has a visceral part of grieving, that really seeing that, oh, nothing survived. Not even that barn or that bridge or that other trailer I had somewhere or those motorcycles I had in there or that mower that I just bought or my dog run that I just made for Chaga. My house is completely gone. My truck, it looked like Chernobyl exploded it. It was rough, and also something that anyone grieving anything, I would just say, don't try to push it away. Just face it straight on.
Just face it straight on. In Volume 1, Philip McKernan laid down some hard truths about how as humans today, we tend to disconnect from our feelings when things get tough. I'll let him explain.
The catastrophe that the greatest challenge the world is facing today is not global warming. It is not mass population that might lead to starvation. It is not Donald Trump. It is not those things. It's the fact that we are becoming so disconnected and we're forgetting how to feel, and society doesn't reward us with emotion. It rewards us based on intellect and what is perceived as to be successful. And a lot of us are focusing and obsessing about living in the now. I don't want to fucking live in the now if my now is shit. I have no interest in living in the now if my now is shit. Or the rest of us are forward focused. My work and what I believe is if you want to understand who you are at the core, intellectually and emotionally, there's only one place to go, and that is into your past. That is the place that holds every key to who you are and who you're going to be, whether you like it or not.
Just face it straight on? A lot of us don't even know what that means by facing something like this straight on. How do we grieve? Do we even grieve? Do we even deal with the pain that's inside us?
There's something that we do when we're uncomfortable as people, I think. And we avoid emotional pain. We don't want to be vulnerable. So we run around pretending everything's good. And one of my instructors in my master's in psychology program called it spiritual bypass. We just want to jump over all the uncomfortable and get to like, it's all good. We're all one. We're all connected. Fuck you. I've got fucking pain here. And when I say turn into it, just say yes to all of it. Let it happen. And you don't have control over what that grief is. turning into that is fucking powerful and painful, but I'd rather deal with it and allow it than shove it down somewhere in my soul and being and body and have it manifest in pain, anger, resentment. And what occurred for me was I moved through that pretty fast because I did just say, okay, let me feel all of it without putting a judgment on it. Let me feel it. And then through that, I'd have these moments, these sparks of absolute fucking amazing clarity. It was like a shooting star would shoot by my grief, and I'd be like, oh, fuck, what was that? And all of a sudden, I just have more and more and more of those shooting stars through my grief. And I'm like, I'm starting to have visions now. I'm starting to see my property. I'm starting to feel what it's like as a result of this. I'm starting to understand what I'm going to do on the property. What is the opportunity that is presenting itself as a result of completely going through this grief? It was a little weird because I'd see a lot of people. Obviously, I knew a lot of friends that were grieving their losses too. And it was despair around. And I'm like going, well, yeah, it sucked. And I've gotten through a lot of that stuff, but now I'm fucking excited. It's weird to have excitement along with loss, sharing space. But the result of this is my life had changed. And that's a whole nother, I'm stoked. I would, obviously I don't recommend being a minimalist by way of everything burning, but I wouldn't take it back now because the depth of who I am, the depths of what I perceive, the depths of my commitment to this planet and to people and health in it is only exponentially gotten stronger. So I would never want that to be taken away. So not that I had control over, but I'd burn my house down again to be able to feel how immensely connected I am to myself and to what I'm committed to doing in this probably for the rest of my life.
Hearing what Darin has to say about how he dealt with grief reminds me of Volume 7, when Kelsey Ramsden talked about how her experience with cancer changed her mindset towards her life.
But I can't believe how much of my life I spent pursuing things that didn't actually matter to me. And in that fine moment where you realize this is just a quick little ride on the marble, you get to go, man, how about I pursue some things that matter to me and forget about all this other stuff?
In a few minutes, that last line will make a lot of sense with you understanding Darin and the responsibility he puts on himself. But before that, Darin said something really phenomenal about going through emotions.
We're all running around as humans with pain, fear, anger, resentment. You don't get to not have that in your life. That's a part of it. So why not understand it and move through it rather than living with it? But I've been practicing for as long as I've been aware of trying to confront elephants in the room, trying to be honest and open and curating the understanding of me, myself as a spiritual being living in this life. You're going to deal with all of the emotions. When you have to shut down a business or you failed at something, you have to deal with the emotions. And it's not living in the emotions. It's allowing the emotions to move through without judgment.
In Volume 28, Ronsley had a deep conversation with Dr. Mark Goulston, about mental health. He offered his insight into the psychology behind suicide and despair and how they can present themselves from a range of different factors.
After Anthony Bourdain killed himself, I wrote an article which became part of an 8-part series, and it was called Why People Kill Themselves. And after he killed himself, I wrote this blog called Why People Kill Themselves, It's Not Depression. And what I said is that there's hundreds of millions of people who are depressed who don't kill themselves. There are many who do. Not many, but some. There's hundreds of millions of people who lose their jobs, lose their marriage, and they don't kill themselves. Now, all those things can contribute to it. But one thing that nearly all suicidal people feel, which is what I spoke about in the article, is they feel despair. And if you break the word despair into DESPAIR, they feel unpaired with reasons to live. They feel hopeless without a future, helpless, powerless, useless, worthless, meaningless. And when they all combine, they feel pointless, and they pair with death to take the pain away. So I think it's from that understanding.
Mindfulness trains us to welcome our emotions and not react immediately or impulsively. This training allows for greater cognitive flexibility, which can lead to greater freedom of action and greater adaptability.
Darin, you were saying something about allowing the emotions to move through you without judgment. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
When you allow that to occur without needing to do anything with it, I really believe then that the space will open up for opportunity. And it's first the mindset. I do not believe that things happen to me and I am not a part of it. I take responsibility for myself and my life 100%. And if I'm not consciously aware of something that's occurring, on some level, I am aware of it. And I just don't know it yet. That is a fundamental side of it. So even before the house burned and my father died and all the big events in my life, fundamentally, I know that the universe has always got my back to unfold the level of consciousness in me, to open me up to a level of spirit, love, compassion, kindness, grace that I don't know yet. And if that's my modus operandi of how I live, then it's just, again, the opportunity to move through the grief so that I can yet be on another level of consciousness that is ultimately the most fulfilling and rewarding to my life. Because it's like I'm looking at this door right now. If I'm not willing to go into the pain and open that door, I don't get to see what's on that other side. I don't get it. And then you live in this little room here, and that's it. And we all want to control our room. We all want to live a certain way and have this and this, and this is who I am. So I'm not going to do this and I'm going to control that. But if you're not willing to face the challenges, the pain, the fear, the anger, the resentment, if you're not willing to face it, this is as good as it gets. And I just don't believe that. I'm like, the more I do it, the more I know I need to do it. The more I know that on the other side of it, I'm going to be happier. And maybe better word is more joyful, more content, more conscious, more fulfilled.
More joyful, more content, more conscious, more fulfilled. You know what, Darin? That sounds super fluffy. Does profit in business count at all?
Part of the circle or spoke of a wheel, profit has to be one of them. But we're so goddamn focused on that. It has to be. You have to figure out that, is this truly sustainable from an economic standpoint? Or else you're just begging for money all the time. So for sure, you need to acknowledge that from a business perspective. But I think we don't give enough emphasis to foundational principles of our business. Who's working for us? What's their why? What's our why? Why are we actually doing this? If you're not honest with yourself and going, this is for money, then that's to the degree at which you're limiting your entire business. So just know you're going to struggle. You're just going to struggle.
There is no hiding the fact that Darin cares about sustainability above all else.
It's ultimately more sustainable when you're truly honest with what you're wanting to do this from. So I think people lack the investigation on that front. And number two, doing the work that sucks. And the work that sucks is building these other pillars up, not just how do I get the best influencer to do all this other stuff? Well, what about your other aspects of your business? What's it for? Like, is it a service? Is it giving something to, is it better? Is your footprint of doing this going to make life better, the environment better, people better? If it isn't hitting something that's absolutely meaningful, what the fuck are you doing? If you're into a thing and you're making money on it, great, good. But what are you doing with that money? That's an energy form. Do something with it. So I think just it plagues entrepreneurial people, it plagues business people, it plagues humans to investigate their reasons for doing things. And that takes vulnerability of yourself. It takes openness to other people and feedback. Because once you know your why, once you know absolutely why I'm doing this, and is it connected to my heart and soul, then the criticism becomes fuel. Not, oh, I shouldn't do this. Fuck that shit. It becomes the fact that you are coming at me gives me a greater and deeper reason that I am absolutely going to do it. I don't pay them any more attention than that. So, anyone doing any business, creating anything, if you get hit with some resistance, which you will, and you fold, then you already know. You don't have the deepest why that you need. So take that on. So it's all about every opportunity to investigate the opportunity.
Psychology of entrepreneurship. Psychology of entrepreneurship.
Next week on the Psychology of Entrepreneurship, we're going to be revisiting Volume 18, where we dived inside the mind of the co-creator of the 5-Minute Journal, UJ Ramdas. We go deep on why the key to success is defining what you really, really, really want and how to get there. If you're someone who needs some tips on how to get that next step closer to your goal, this one's for you. Not only will you have UJ's wisdom, but we'll be bringing in some guidance from some of our other guests as well, so you won't want to miss this one.
Psychology of entrepreneurship.
I interviewed Darin because he is often called the Indiana Jones of superfoods. He has formulated the comprehensive plant-based Ultimate Reset 21-day detoxification program, which has a registered trademark under it. He works with fitness company Beachbody to formulate the popular whole food supplement Shakeology. He studied physiology and nutrition and now holds a bachelor degree in this field as well as a master's in psychology. He is the author of Super Life, the 5 forces that will make you healthy, fit, and eternally awesome. Darin is widely recognized as an exotic superfood hunter, supplement formulator, and environmental activist who travels the planet discovering new and underutilized medicinal plants. He formulates for other companies the latest and rare superfoods from around the world. He is a philosopher, a creature of this land, and a friend.
Psychology of entrepreneurship.
This is a Must Amplify production. Special thanks to every guest expert that has appeared on the show. Editing, voiceovers, and sound design by Kaylee Bunnyman and Tiago Vega. Guest research and content by Claire Gould and Corinne Castles. Project managed by Kaylee Bunnyman. Produced and hosted by me, Ronsley Vaz. For more episodes and where to listen, go to mustamplify.com/POE.
Hey, it's Kaylee from Must Amplify. I'm the sound engineer for this volume of Psychology of Entrepreneurship. I'm a part of the team that made this production come alive. Our team consists of members from all around the globe, with our headquarters based in West End, Brisbane, Australia, the land of the drop bear. For more about the cool stuff that we're up to and to work out of our studios, head to mustamplify.com. Are you still listening? Here's a little gift to you for sticking around, which can lead to greater freedom of action and greater adaptability.
To wipe out the Awa, which is a tribe of 300. This fucking stat is so depressing.
Hearing what Darin has to say about, oh my God, I can't speak. Sorry, I'm sick.
Apparently, there's no global warming, apparently. Fucking hell.